The world often feels like a storm we cannot calm, a fire we cannot extinguish. We scroll through chaos and wake up to headlines that echo suffering, division, and confusion. And somewhere deep inside, a quiet voice asks, when did it all begin to unravel? The truth is, the world does not change all at once. It shifts with the weight of countless small decisions, some made with courage, others with indifference. We look outward and demand transformation, justice, and compassion. But what if the change we seek has been waiting within us all along? From the moment we're born, we inherit more than just a name or a nation. We inherit stories, belief systems, and the behaviors of those who came before us. We learn early how to point fingers, how to blame systems, leaders, neighbors, anyone but ourselves. It's easier that way, safer. After all, responsibility is heavy. It requires honesty, vulnerability, and the willingness to examine our own contradictions. Yet history has always favored those rare individuals who turned their gaze inward before they sought to shape the world, because they understood something that most forget. The outer world is merely a reflection of our inner landscape. Imagine for a moment that your life is a stone cast into a vast, silent lake. Every word you speak, every action you take, sends ripples into the water, touching people you may never even meet. You may not see the effect, but it's there. A kind word today becomes someone's courage tomorrow. An act of integrity in private becomes a light for someone in the dark. Every small gesture matters, but in a time where visibility is confused with value and shouting is mistaken for strength, we forget the quiet revolutions, the ones that begin in the soul, not on a stage. To be the change you wish to see in the world is not a call to grandiosity. It is a return to authenticity. It is the choice to live in alignment with your values, even when it's inconvenient, even when no one is watching. It's the silent decision to walk away from gossip when the crowd leans in, to speak with truth when falsehood is more profitable, to offer kindness in a culture that often confuses cruelty with wit. These are not easy choices, but they are the building blocks of transformation, not just for the self, but for the world. There's a quiet kind of power in those who choose to be light when it's easier to be cynical, who chooses to build when it's easier to destroy, who chooses to forgive when the world whispers vengeance. These people don't need recognition. They don't need applause. Their lives are their message. Their actions speak long after their names are forgotten. And slowly, quietly, the world bends toward the shape of their example. Because in truth, no system, no government, no culture can withstand the force of millions of people waking up to their own power. Not the power to dominate, but the power to heal, to listen, to love. And love, in its truest form, is not sentimental. It is fierce, disciplined, and resilient. It is the willingness to carry the burden of change, even when the world tries to convince you that it's someone else's job. When you choose to be the change, you are no longer waiting for the world to improve. You are declaring that the revolution begins now, with your thoughts, your choices, your presence. And this doesn't mean perfection. It means alignment. It means striving, failing, and striving again, not out of ego, but out of care for something greater than yourself. The world will not be changed by the perfect. It will be changed by the sincere. If you want a world that is more peaceful, then be at peace in your home. Be peace in your arguments. Be at peace when you're stuck in traffic and running late. If you want a world that is more just, then seek justice not just in the courtroom, but in the everyday. How you treat the waiter, how you speak to your child, how you handle power when it's given to you. These are the arenas where change is born, not in sweeping declarations, but in daily devotion. We must resist the lie that says we are powerless, that our role is to complain, to observe, to wait. There is nothing passive about being human. Every moment is a choice. Every day is a chance. You are not a spectator to the story of the world. You are part of its authorship, and the pen is in your hand. So ask yourself, gently but honestly, what am I contributing to the world around me? What energy do I leave behind in a room? What values do I carry? Not in theory, but in behavior. The answers may humble you. They may even hurt. But that discomfort is the birthplace of transformation. In the end, the question isn't whether the world can change. The question is whether we're willing to change first. Whether we'll keep pointing outward, or finally dare to look within. Whether we'll continue to wait for permission, or realize we've had it all along. Because the world is not made by those who sit on the sidelines. It is made, moment by moment, by those who choose to show up differently. Be the change you wish to see in the world, not because it's easy, not because it's popular, but because it is the most courageous, most human thing you can do. And when enough of us live this truth, not just once, but again and again, we will wake up one day to find that the world we dreamed of was never as far away as it seemed. It was always waiting, just on the other side of our choice. Change begins quietly, not in revolutions televised or slogans printed in bold, but in the space between a thought and an action. In that fragile pause where we decide who we are. You may feel small in a world this vast, but your life is not insignificant. Every life touches another. Every day becomes a thread in the larger tapestry of humanity. What you do, how you live, matters. It matters more than you know. To be the change you wish to see in the world is to step out of the illusion that change is always someone else's responsibility. It is the profound and humbling realization that we are both the problem and the possibility. And to live this way requires more than belief. It requires discipline. It's a daily act of choosing love when anger is easier, compassion when judgment comes quick, and patience when the world feels impossibly loud. It is the slow, often invisible revolution of the soul. The great thinkers and spiritual teachers of history have always understood this. They taught not through commands, but through examples. Socrates lived simply and questioned everything, not to prove he was right, but to awaken the minds of others. Laozi spoke of water, the softest thing in the world, wearing down the hardest rock, to show us that gentleness carries power. And Gandhi, who inspired the very words of this video, didn't need weapons, only truth, consistency, and a willingness to suffer without hatred. These people were not saints. They were human, but they chose to embody what they believed. And that made all the difference. We often underestimate the weight of our choices, the way we speak to the cashier, the way we react when someone cuts us off in traffic, the way we treat people who can do nothing for us. These moments seem trivial, but they shape who we are, and who we are shapes the world. If we want a kinder world, we must choose kindness, especially when it's difficult. If we want a world with less hate, then we must confront our own biases, our own pride, and our own moments of small cruelty. The path of becoming change is not glamorous. It asks for consistency when the world is inconsistent. It asks you to forgive people who aren't sorry, to listen when you desperately want to speak, to love when your heart is tired. And yet, this is where the real power lies, not in grand gestures, but in steadfast presence, not in applause, but in alignment. There's a Lakota saying, "We will be known forever by the tracks we leave." Your thoughts leave tracks. Your actions leave tracks. Your silence leaves tracks. And one day, someone will follow them. Maybe your child, maybe a stranger, maybe a generation yet to come. And when they do, what will they find? Did you walk in anger or grace? Did you step over others? or bend down to lift them. We forget sometimes that the world is made of people, and people are made of stories. Every person you pass is carrying invisible burdens, secret hopes, silent regrets. To be the change is to recognize this shared humanity, to soften in a hardened world. It means moving through life not as a critic, but as a creator, not as someone waiting to be inspired, but as someone willing to live as inspiration. Think of a candle in a dark room. It doesn't shout, it doesn't fight the dark, it simply shines, and in doing so, it allows others to see. One small flame can ignite another and another until the darkness recedes. This is how real change happens, not by conquering the world, but by lighting a single fire in a single heart. Too often, we are paralyzed by the scale of suffering, the wars, the poverty, the injustice. It overwhelms us. But transformation doesn't demand we fix everything. It asks only that we respond where we are. If you see hunger, feed. If you see loneliness, sit. If you see injustice, speak. You may not change the world overnight, but you will change someone's world, and that is no small thing. There's a story of a man walking along the shore, picking up starfish that had washed onto the sand and throwing them back into the sea. Another man saw him and said, "You can't save them all. What you're doing doesn't matter." The man picked up another starfish, threw it into the waves, and replied, "It mattered to that one." The lesson is clear. You are not responsible for saving the whole world, but you are responsible for your part of it, your corner, your community, your conscience. And every time you choose to act with integrity, compassion, and courage, you shift the balance. You nudge the world a little closer to what it could be, even when no one sees, even when no one thanks you, even when you feel like you're alone. Because the truth is, the most powerful change doesn't happen when the world is watching. It happens when your character is being tested and you still choose love. It happens in silence, in shadow, in the sacred space of your own heart. The world may never fully reflect what you dream, but you are not here to simply witness reality. You are here to help shape it. And the most enduring changes are always born from the inside out, like seeds breaking through soil, like dawn chasing away night. So begin, not tomorrow, not when it's convenient. Begin now, where you are, with what you have, and let your life become your message. Let your steps write the story your heart believes in. Let your presence speak of peace, of hope, of integrity. The journey is not perfect, and it's not meant to be. But every time you choose to be the change, the world becomes just a little softer, a little braver, a little more whole. And perhaps, just perhaps, that is enough to begin again. But how do we carry this truth into the reality of our daily lives? How do we become the change when the world around us feels resistant, chaotic, and often indifferent? This is where the idea is tested, not as philosophy on a page, but as practice in the real, raw, and imperfect moments we live each day. It's easy to be inspired when the air is calm and the path is clear, but real transformation begins where frustration lives, in the delays, the disappointments, and the disillusionment that comes from trying to do good in a world that sometimes doesn't seem to care. The truth is, trying to live by this principle will, at times, feel lonely. It will feel like swimming against the current. There will be moments when your kindness is met with coldness, when your honesty is inconvenient, and your desire to do right places you at odds with those around you. But that is precisely when the change begins to matter most, because it's easy to reflect love when love surrounds you. The test is what you reflect when it doesn't. Being the change is not about performing goodness for recognition or approval. It is about becoming so deeply rooted in your values that even when the wind howls, you do not sway. It's about embodying the kind of integrity that doesn't seek applause, the kind that makes you look in the mirror and know you live true, even if no one else ever noticed. Think of the people who changed your life, not the famous ones, not the ones in the headlines, but the quiet ones. The teacher who believed in you when you couldn't believe in yourself. The friend who stayed when things fell apart. The stranger who smiled at you on a day you were thinking of giving up. These people weren't trying to change the world. They were simply living with love, but their love found you, it shaped you, and now it lives through you. This is the ripple we often forget we carry. You may never know the impact of a kind word, a moment of patience, a single decision to do what's right instead of what's easy. But these small acts are how we shift the fabric of our shared existence. They are not glamorous, they are not loud, but they matter in the places where lives are truly shaped in hearts, in homes, in the quiet, unseen corners of everyday life. There's a paradox to this path. When you decide to become the change, you begin to see more clearly the ways the world falls short. You feel injustice more deeply. You notice cruelty more sharply. Your heart breaks more easily because now you're awake. And once you're awake, you can't unsee. You feel the suffering of others as if it were your own. And that is the sacred cost of awareness. But within that ache lies the seed of compassion. No pity, not guilt, but the kind of compassion that says, I cannot fix everything, but I will not turn away. It's the strength to stand open-hearted in a world that often chooses to close its eyes. And it is through this compassionate presence that real change begins to grow, not from control or domination, but from understanding and shared humanity. There's something deeply powerful about realizing that you don't have to wait for anyone else to begin. The world may not change overnight. People may resist or misunderstand, but you, here, now can begin to live differently. You can be a place where the cycle of pain stops. You can be the one who breaks the chain of anger, who chooses healing over harm, who plants seeds of kindness in soil hardened by fear. And the more you live this way, the more you begin to notice that change is not always dramatic. Sometimes it's just in how you show up. It's in the tone of your voice, in the pause before you react, in the way you apologize sincerely or listen without rushing to respond. It's in choosing to believe the best in someone, even when you've been given reason to doubt. These are the daily rebellions that shape a more conscious world. The path isn't linear. There will be days you fall short, days you revert to old patterns, days where your efforts feel invisible. But the measure of change isn't perfection. It's persistence. It's the willingness to begin again and again and again. It's the humility to grow, the courage to forgive yourself, and the grace to continue walking even when the road disappears beneath your feet. You'll begin to see that every interaction is an invitation, every moment a choice. Will I reflect love or fear? Will I defend my ego or protect someone's dignity? Will I act out of habit or out of awareness? These choices accumulate. They build a life. They build a world. And the more we choose with intention, the more that world begins to reflect the beauty of those choices. Being the change is not a single act. It is a way of being, a presence, a posture of the soul. And the most profound part is that it doesn't demand you become anyone other than who you are. It only asks that you become more fully, more consciously, more courageously yourself. The self that already knows right from wrong, that already feels the pull toward goodness, that already hears the quiet call to live with depth and truth. And when you live this way, you inspire without trying. You become a lighthouse, not by pushing light onto others, but by simply refusing to let your own light go out. And in a world that's often dark with confusion and noise, that kind of light is revolutionary. So let your life be a reflection of the world you dream about. Let it be messy and honest and real. Let it be human, because in your effort, in your vulnerability, in your striving to live with love and intention, you become a quiet force of change. Not in theory, not in speeches, but in the very way you breathe, speak, walk, and love. And maybe, just maybe, that's what the world has been waiting for all along. Not for something to happen out there, but for someone to awaken in here. And so, we arrive at the quiet truth we've been circling all along. Not just a quote on a wall or a call to action shouted into the void, but a way of living that begins in the softest part of the self. Be the change you wish to see in the world. These words are not just a reminder, they are a mirror. They reflect not only the world's potential, but our own. They challenge us to stop waiting for someone else to go first, to stop pleading with the world to be better while refusing to look at what we are offering to it. Because the world, in all its complexity, is a mosaic of human choices. Our cultures, our systems, our communities, they are not abstract machines moving on their own. They are reflections of the thoughts, fears, hopes, and decisions of individuals. Every injustice is a story of small actions, some done, some avoided. Every moment of peace or compassion is born from the same small, quiet places. It is never too late to step into that power and choose differently. We often think change is about fixing what's broken out there, but more often, it's about healing what's been ignored in here. It's about turning inward, not in retreat, but in renewal. About asking the hard questions. Who am I when no one is watching? What do I stand for when there's nothing to gain? Where do I place my faith when the world disappoints me? When you begin to live the answers to these questions, you no longer live from reaction. You live from intention, and in a world driven by impulse and noise, intention is a quiet rebellion. It's choosing to live awake when sleepwalking would be easier. It's choosing to stay soft when cynicism tempts you to grow cold. It's choosing to keep your hands open when the world tells you to close your fists. To be the change is not to climb a mountain and shout your truth from its peak. It is to build the mountain beneath your feet, stone by stone, word by word, choice by choice. It's to raise your children with empathy, even if you were not raised with it. It's to run your business with integrity, even when no one sees the cost. It's to speak with dignity, even when surrounded by voices that degrade. This is what makes the journey beautiful. It is deeply human. It allows room for our flaws, our learning curves, our mistakes, because this isn't about becoming perfect. It's about becoming real, becoming conscious, becoming someone who owns their impact and carries their life like it matters, because it does. You might never get recognition for the good you do, no headlines, no applause, but that doesn't mean it goes unnoticed. Somewhere, a child will grow up feeling loved because you chose to be patient. Someone will take a risk on themselves because you believed in them. A stranger will pay kindness forward because you reminded them that the world still holds gentle souls. And maybe you won't see the ripple, but it will move quietly and powerfully across generations, because that's the strange magic of change. It rarely shows up where we expect, but it always shows up where it's needed. The world doesn't just need smarter people, it needs braver people, not in the way of heroism, but in the way of consistency. People who will live with love even when the world forgets it. People who will make room for others even when they themselves feel small. People who will risk vulnerability to create a space where healing is possible. This kind of bravery rewrites stories. It changes what's considered normal. It teaches the next generation to value presence over performance, substance over spectacle. It whispers to the world that humanity is not lost, not broken beyond repair, that there is still light here, and that light lives in you. So let your life be your message. Let the way you speak reflect the future you hope to see. Let the way you show up, especially in hard moments, be your quiet revolution. Let your actions speak not just of who you are, but of who we could all become. This is not idealism. It's my responsibility. It's understanding that every day we contribute to the collective story. And though you cannot write the whole book alone, your chapter matters. Your sentence matters. The tone you carry into the room, the energy you offer to strangers, the way you forgive, the way you listen, the way you simply exist with grace, it all matters. If you ever wonder where to begin, begin here. With presence, with awareness, with the courage to see yourself clearly, and the even greater courage to act from love. Let go of the idea that your efforts must be perfect, or loud, or world-shaking. Begin with what is real. Begin with what is right in front of you. Begin with your breath, your next word, your next choice. And when the path becomes heavy, and it will, remember that you are not alone. All over the world, there are others like you, quiet warriors of the heart, artists of kindness, builders of peace. You may never meet them, but you walk beside them, and together you are shaping a different kind of world, not with force, but with presence. Not with noise, but with meaning. The time for waiting is over. The era of helplessness is done. The world doesn't change when we wish it would. It changes when we decide it must. And when we realize that the very things we are longing for, justice, peace, connection, healing, are not distant ideals, but daily practices, within reach, within us. So be the change you wish to see in the world. Not someday, not when it's easier, but now, in your own way, with your whole heart, even when it's quiet, even when it's hard, because your life is a message. Let it be one worth remembering.